Now that you have Conversational Cam 4 installed on your computer, we need to run through the setups before you start designing parts and generating the G-code. We'll begin by clicking on Setups and choosing the machine settings. On the left are the various machines, and on the right are the settings for each system. We'll go through these one at a time real quickly to see if you need to make any changes. For example, if your Artisan has auto tool change, you would need to say yes. If it does, you're going to have tool stations, and you'll need to enter how many your system has. For example, it might have 6 or 8 or 10 or whatever. Okay, in the deep stations, this is used to identify which stations can accommodate the long tools. For example, the side reading and side fluting bits have shanks that are 5 inches long. If they are positioned in front of the headstock, then when the auto tool change pulls that out of the station, it can crash into the headstock, causing a problem. So you'll need to look at your system and identify which stations can handle the long tools, and it will enter those here separated by a colon. For example, it might be stations 2, 3, and 6. Now I'm going to come back to this in a few minutes, but let's go on with the rest of the settings, and then we'll take a look at how this affects the machine under your tool station manager. Alright, coming down to units, you can be metric or it can be English. You get to choose. The bed adjust on an Artisan is automatic, has the B axis. On an Arty and a Mini Arty, this will be a manual setting. The maximum bed adjust, swing diameter, spindle length, those are already set for you. With the exception of the swing diameter, yours may be 15 inches, so it depends on which system that you ordered. Spindle control, automatic. Spindle RPM control. The only time I change these settings is if you have a standard CNC on a model 900 or 1200 and it does not turn the router on. Then of course you'd have to have the spindle control as manual, and you could put the spindle RPM control as manual as well. If I'm using a router on an Artisan, I still set both of these to automatic, because if you set the RPM control to manual, then it will pause the program and ask you to change the setting on the router before it continues on. I usually make that setting before I start running the program, so I leave this as automatic, then I don't have to worry about it pausing in the middle of the program. These 4 parameters right here are measurements off of the machine and are used to calculate the adjustment of the B-axis for tapering. The Smart Tool, if it's fixed or not, what that means is if your Smart Tool pad is mounted onto a rail that does not adjust up and down with the bed, then it is fixed. If the Smart Tool pad is mounted onto the rail that adjusts up and down with the bed, then it is not fixed. And last of all, of course, is the name. Now if we look over here, you'll notice that there is no Mini Arty. In the instructions we sent out with the program, it says that you can use the Arty 36 and just come in and change these 4 parameters right here, and that'll work. But I'll show you how to create a profile for the Mini Arty itself. Now, right down here at the bottom, we're going to enter the name, Mini Arty, and then let's run through each parameter real quickly. Auto tool station or change, no. Let's put 6 tool stations. It doesn't really matter here how many tool stations because you don't have auto tool change, but I normally just put 6 as the default. Deep stations doesn't matter. Bull nose the same. We'll do this in English. Use the English units. Manual adjust for the bed. The maximum bed adjust is 2.85, so you'll need to change that parameter. Maximum swing diameter is 5, and the maximum spindle length is 18. Spindle control, leave that as automatic because the machine turns the router on and off. And I'm also going to set the RPM control to automatic so I don't have to wait as the program pauses for me to change the RPM. Now the pivot height should be set to 2.125. The pivot lift height should be set to 4.05. Pivot length start at 2 and the pivot length end 24.75. So for a Mini Arty, these settings are critical. Make sure you get those in there. Now we can just click on the Save New button down here at the bottom, and you'll notice that the Mini Arty is now listed here in our list of machines. Alright, let's go back to the Artisan 72, and I'm going to set the Auto Tool Station up to yes. I'm going to set the tool stations to 6 and the deep stations to 2 and 6. And we will click on Select /exit, and it'll tell me that I'm about to overwrite these settings, and if I want to, I'll click yes, which I do, of course, and it's done. Now let's take a real quick look at the toolbox organizer. This is your tool library. Every one of your tools has a field down here called tool length, and most all cutters are listed as short. If, however, you have a side reading bit and it has a 5-inch long shank, then that is a long cutter, and we would identify it as such so that it will assign it to the proper tool station when it comes time to set up your tools. Alright, let's go look now at the Tool Station Manager. Again, this is only used if you have auto tool change. Now you'll notice right here, station number 2 and station number 6 are indicated as deep stations. So if you select a tool, you want to put it in these stations. Right down here at the bottom you have a field that you can put a check mark that's called auto, and this is what I would suggest you use. This way, as you create your program, it takes the first process and it puts that tool in station number 1. The second process, it puts it in number 2, 3, 4, and so on. Now if you have a long tool that will only fit in a deep station, it'll automatically assign it for tool station number 2 or tool station number 6. If they're all short tools, then it'll use all stations and it doesn't matter. You also have the option that you can uncheck the auto, and then we can create a set of tool files. For example, I've created one right here called the turning set, and you'll notice that in station number 1 it has a 2704 and so on. All you do is click on the station where you want to assign a tool, come up here and grab the tool that you want to assign and double click on it, and it puts that tool into this field. And then we can save this set, and if we're using this set, then you make sure that you put these cutters in these stations, and it'll draw from these stations as you're running the program. And you can create as many sets as you want. So you can create one for turning and one for carving and one for a particular part or process or any way that you want to set it up. But to begin with, I'm going to suggest that you click on auto and let the program just automatically assign the tools for you. Then you don't have to worry about it. Now let's take a look at the touch-off method. You can choose Smart Tool or the tool tables or so on. I'm going to highly recommend that you start with Smart Tool. It'll make it very easy, and you can go on later if you want to set up these tool tables, you can, but for right now let's go with the Smart Tool. In our preferences we have a couple of things we'll need to set up. We'll make sure that the G-code training option is off. We'll come back to that in another video and explain how to use that to learn G-code from the program. In this case we're going to use our display is going to be in English, so we'll make sure it says English here, not metric. If it says metric, we'll click it, or vice versa. Okay, process input mode. Let's talk about these two for a second. You have conversational or table. And well, let's just click conversational and we'll create a part and I'll show you how it looks. We'll start by making a new part, and we'll need to choose a blank size, so I'm going to choose the sample blank. And then we'll come down and click on this button to add a new process. Let's start by just turning it around, for example. Now it's going to have a select a router bit to begin with, okay, and we're going to use the surface planing bit to turn it around. Again, we can change these parameters on the fly. For example, if I wanted the maximum pass depth to be 0.375, I could make that change, and when I click select exit, it's going to overwrite that value for me, so now it has a 3/8 pass depth. Now here's what you want to look at. You notice that it has one question, and you get to answer the question. If you don't know what this question means, provide a unique name for the process, you can click on help, and it's going to give you an explanation and help you out with the entry. So we're going to call this a tapered round section. Now we'll just click on the next arrow. Goes to the next question, and it says, has it been turned around, yes or no? We'll say no because it's still a square blank. We go to the next question, and you can go back to a previous question, and again, if you need help, you can click on help, and it will take you into more information here to help you with the entry. Now I'm just going to cancel this because I'm not really concerned about making a part right now. I just wanted to show you the input method. Now we're going to choose the table, and we'll come up here and select turning round. there's the cutter that we're going to use, so that's fine. These arrows right here indicate that this is the cutter that we're using. These check marks do not indicate the cutter you're using. It just indicates the available cutters that you want to work from. So any router bit that you own, you can put a check mark in it, and it will show up in this field. It helps you find your cutters much faster. Anyway, let's go back and find the surface planing bit. We'll put a check mark here, and it will highlight that one. Okay, now you see all of the fields are in a table format, so I can see all these, and many of them have default values that I can just accept. I don't even have to worry about entering those values in there. If you get stuck here and you're not sure what it's asking for when it says process name, you can click this button to the right under the help, and it goes back into the conversational mode and asks the question for you to provide a unique name for this process. Again, we can click on help, and it gives you the help to assist you in entering the data. So we'll call this a tapered round section. Now when you click on done, it enters that into the field and it kicks back into the table mode. So this system is much faster because we can quickly enter in the numbers, and if the end of this is all acceptable, we just click finish and save, and you're done. If we go look at the G code, there's the process right there. So this is my preferred input mode is the table because it's much faster. When you first get started though, however, you may want to use the conversational mode. Alright, now let's just recap real quickly. In the setups, you're going to choose a machine and double check all of the settings. Then if you're using Auto Tool Station, you'll go into the manager, and I would suggest that you use the auto and let it assign the router bits to the stations for each part. Turn on your touch off method as Smart Tool, go to your preferences, and then you choose whether you want conversational or table mode. That pretty much wraps this up. We're now ready to start creating parts and adding the processes, and then we'll look at the code and how to save it and run it on the machine, and that is for the next video.